It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies. Hello, Waike in the building.
Good morning, Murayo. Good morning.
Good to have you, Waike.
Morning.
We're all in blue, sort of, today.
Like we got the memo or something.
So, I don't know what happened. We're all in the spirit.
We've got the memo.
Yes,
Heidi, Waike. In fact, a lot of people in the studio are in blue. Bumi is wearing blue. Wow. Mr. K is wearing blue. Nice. Mike was wearing blue.
Oh, wow.
It's the color of love.
Today.
Yeah.
The kind of love is red.
No, blue. It's not red.
No, blue is the color of love.
Really?
I know. So.
It was red, they told us in the day.
No, red is Valentine and
and
Christmas and Easter.
Really? I thought blue means that gloomy, you're upset, you're blue, you're sad. Okay, all right. How are you doing, Mikey? How was your weekend?
I'm fine. Well, I don't ask about weekends anymore. There is nothing. Nothing.
The same thing. It's like it's flattened out.
I'm telling you.
Even if I wasn't coming on TV, I would not even know the difference. In fact, I suspect that I'm going to miss a day because I will be thinking
every day now.
School has started. Have you guys started your school?
I have kids in two different schools.
Online.
Yes. One has started, the other one, there is no plan. So I don't know what to do.
You see, I'm even worried because hopefully tomorrow we're trying to get a guest to come and discuss. And I'll try to get the commissioner also to speak to us because if we start school, the private owners start school and the public schools are not starting, the gap is going to be wider.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be going ahead with the curriculum. And what's going to happen to the public schools? I'm really worried about that. And we don't... And
it's a major issue.
It's a major issue because there has to be a way that we have a uniform way of teaching all the kids at this time. Because I don't know how we're going to do it. School have started, and then how do you build parents? I'm hearing that some people are saying 20% off. Some are saying, I cannot... Some parents are saying, I can't accept 20%, so it has to be 50% off. Yeah. Now, it's not like tomato we're pricing. Based on circumstances.
It has to be 50%, at least 50% off, because they are not getting value. Even that online. Because my brother's kids, their own school, after the lesson, the kids started sending stupid texts. They have to be removing all of them from the group. Since you don't want to hear a word. My brother was laughing. They're just removing all of them.
Oh my God. Honestly, it's something worth talking about. A lot of parents have started that conversation, and we're trying to bring in someone tomorrow to talk about it. But how are you doing, BC?
I'm doing amazing.
We saw your video yesterday. Nice.
You watched?
Yes, so I watched.
My boss
I was trying to give you feedback, but I'll give you, I had feedback, but I deleted it. I'll see you.
Video of what?
They had an online video.
I did a live session on Instagram.
Just in all week, this whole week.
This whole week. Just talking about different issues.
I don't do social media like that.
Yeah.
But Obiajulo, you are really putting on weight.
Yeah.
Are you pregnant?
No, I'm just eating.
Are you sure? Your stomach? I was shocked this morning.
I can just put you on the spot on national TV. Jesus Christ.
I've been eating.
Because you know there is heavy action during this COVID-19.
It's still Tuesday. We have not got out of the trouble from last week Friday. In fact, I forgot to apologize because I was told to apologize to our viewers for how we spoke on Friday last week. So we have to. So we have not gotten out of that trouble. We are still. Don't put another trouble. Let's keep it serious.
Yeah, apologize now.
I'm sorry for how we spoke. We were good actually. It was our guest. I was using some unprintable words on television, and we've told Mr. Katubakwe, please, next time, don't be using certain words on national TV. So you're good, Sha?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good to have you on. Okay, let's go on a break. It's Tuesday. They're telling us we're drinking our oil. Okay, that's our focus today. This is a crude oil that has now been -0. That's a hot topic today. But first, let's go to the front pages of the newspaper. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Right, let's start with the nation. Virus pandemic spread to continue, says federal government. Nigeria others lost $100 billion to COVID-19, says IMF. Federal government to airlift citizens abroad from next week, says Onyema. Wearing of face mask now compulsory, says Lagos State. Anxiety in Lagos over hoodlums, vigilante boys. And Sultan bans Ramadan talks and prayers. Okay, let's start with the face masks. Yes, let's start with that.
So the federal government and Lagos State as well are going to be enforcing the wearing of face masks in public places from next week.
That's Lagos State, right?
Lagos State, yes. So they are in line with the federal government, but the federal government hasn't said specifically when they want to start enforcing. But Lagos State is enforcing it. So as you're going out, you must have your face mask on. So they are also saying that they have contracted tailors to make local production of the face mask, which would not be very expensive, pocket-friendly for everybody. And they are advising that we shouldn't go out into the market to buy out all the medical-grade face masks, because those ones are for health professionals. So we should wait for these ones that they will be likely distributing from next week. And they are saying that they are also going to be setting up like 2 isolation centers in Landmark and Bagada to make it closer. That we shouldn't be scared that we're having more people every day as the result of the coronavirus. It's just because the testings that they have been doing is effective. That's why we're getting more.
And the governor was actually wearing the Ankara-made face mask. With all of them were wearing actually. So just to show that
we can actually
have it made at home. If you're good with the needle and thread, make it yourself.
I was going to talk the story about the Nigerians are going to be lifted. Nigerians living abroad are coming home starting from next week. I think the chairman of Air Peace, Onyema, has worked with other airlines to see how they can get them in. They're going to be coming in 200 batches of 200 each.
Wow.
And the idea is to help because of the isolation centers we have cannot accommodate 2,000 of them coming at the same time. So they have to come in batches. And the idea is that when they get here, they will be isolated for 14 days before they are reunited with their families. Moving on now to the Punch. Kiari, COVID-19 corpses not infectious, says task force. Tension as youths protest hoodlums attacks in Lagos. Passenger coughs dies at checkpoints in Osun and Oyo boundary. No Ramadan lectures, mosques gathering, Sultan warns. Judges may lose 2-month annual vacation, says Malami. And we'll pay Nigeria Airways workers soon. FG promises again. Wow, interesting. Let's take a few stories in the Punch.
The youths in Mushin, they converged yesterday because they heard there was a threat from the 1 million boys. So they converged. They too are like 100 with cutlasses. And I mean, I saw the video yesterday. I didn't even understand till I read it in the papers this morning. And they converged
on their neighborhood.
Yeah. Then they heard that they were in Ilukpeju, so they all
moved down there.
Moved towards Ilukpeju, and the police have asked them to stop this panic. That they are actually on it. They are using helicopters to man the...
they're on their trail and they need to stop all this because that's even causing more panic for Nigerians.
The residents.
Okay, let's take another story. The Osun...
Yes, so a particular driver was conveying a sick man. They were trying to go from Oyo State to Osun, just by the border, and they were accosted by police officials who stopped them. So while they were asking them questions, where are you going, what's happening, the passenger started coughing and died immediately. So they had to send back the taxi back to Oyo State. Those people decided to hide in the bush till the police fished them out and handed them over to the police at the borders in Osun. Oh, that's Oyo, that's Ibadan. And I'm happy. But there was no record of what happened to the person who died in the car.
We follow up to that story. The Oyo State government has said that they would investigate, that they're aware of the story, and they will investigate to find out what happened. If that man died of coronavirus is important because then that means you have to now begin to isolate and trace who else and he has been in contact with. Okay, let's move on. Let's see, there's another story in Punch. Okay, well, I was going to take the major headline that the corpses of COVID-19 are they're not infectious, says task force. And that's we talked about it yesterday. And once it's properly decontaminated.
What they have said. But I have a question. If they are not infectious, why were they wearing...
Protective, it's precautionary.
So if you are wearing that means it's not 100% that the corpse is not infectious.
Right, okay.
You know? So because if it wasn't infectious, they would have been just like you and I. And nobody would have been...
Yes. In connection to that story, that's why the chairman of the president of the task force, presidential task force actually did apologize, SGF, saying that, listen, they made a mistake, they didn't follow the right precautionary measures, and that going forward, they would ensure that it doesn't happen anymore.
I hope they have quarantined all those people because they said some of them...
Because we called them out?
I was on the Kenny. Some of them were at the presidential task force meeting yesterday.
I read in the papers yesterday that many of those, they didn't allow them to enter the villa yesterday.
They didn't allow them to enter the villa, but they were at the meeting yesterday. So the papers had it today that the people that were at the funeral were at the meeting.
They should be isolated, though.
Okay, moving on now to Daily Trust. 150 people die in Kano in 3 days. Undertakers express concern. Families of victims speak. Boko Haram kills vigilante, abducts pregnant mother in Yobe. No Ramadan lectures, congregational prayers, says Sultan. We are far from the end of virus, says federal government. And Brent crude price drops to $26 per barrel. At WTI trades as $1 per barrel. Okay, let's talk about the major headline, Busi.
Yes, so over 150 people died in Kano State, buried in 3 different cemeteries. And there's this fear, according to the story, they're saying that they died as a result of a strange ailment. There is nobody's linking it to COVID-19. But a lot of them are dying. The people who are, that's the undertakers who actually dig the graveyards, are complaining that there are other people who are not even included in this number that died in other separate and buried in other separate graves. So the thing is getting too much out of hand. The people who have relatives that have died are asking for investigation. We need to find out what exactly is happening.
So undertakers are digging graves, 61 corpses in a day.
In a day.
And they're saying this is not normal.
That's horrible. A resident of Farm Center told one of the correspondents he witnessed 26 burials within the last 2 days. Then another grave had 61.
Right.
Another one, I'm just trying to get the name, the Dandodo Cemetery had 61.
Imagine that.
Oyadi something, no, Gayadi had 31 bodies.
Right.
So that is in
over the weekend. Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
I don't want to waste time because what...
That's very, well, the good thing is that the commissioner, the health commissioner has said that they will investigate.
Yes,
I don't know how they plan to investigate. They're going to exhume the corpses. I don't know. But we need to find out what's going on in Kano State.
And we already have 59 confirmed COVID-19 cases
in Kano. And there's no lockdown in Kano.
Hell.
That's worrisome. Okay, moving on now to Vanguard. Man dies as police intercept COVID-19 patients in Doshi. We talked about that already. Lack of coordination by states fueling COVID-19 spread, says GNI. 25th killed as troops invaded Bonyi community. Face masks now compulsory in Lagos, says Sanwo-Olu. Liquidity, workforce retention, top concerns for businesses. And I'm fine, not in ICU, says Al Rufai, that's governor of Kaduna State. Let's take the major headline, GNI, lack of coordination.
So that's the Jama'atu Nasril Islam, saying under the leadership of the Emir of Sokoto, saying that states are part of the reasons we're still having an outbreak of this coronavirus, because they are not working in synergy with each other. They are still leaving their borders porous. People are traveling interstate. And for them to fight this battle, they need to come together and make sure that they lock up their borders. You cannot move from state to state. It's also appealing to the people who are doing these Ramadan prayers that you can actually do your prayers using the internet to conduct your prayers. Stay at home and have your prayers at home. I want to appeal. People are still traveling. As at yesterday, they are still moving around. So I don't know what from different states. Interstate. You go from Lagos to Ibadan. You go from Ibadan to Delta.
Let us remind
moving.
Nigerians. First of all, we don't have enough hospitals. We don't have enough health workers. Remember, all of our people traveled. They relocated to Canada and everything. So we don't have enough of them. We don't want to put the ones we have in Nigeria in danger. You come in, you say you have malaria. And God forbid, they treat you, and then we now find out you have COVID-19. This is not fair on our health. We don't have enough of them because Dr. Williams in UCH has contacted coronavirus because he was treating the patient without knowing he had the virus. So if we get all our doctors in isolation because we are not taking proper precaution, then we're going to be in bigger trouble. So Nigerians must understand that, listen, if you need to always protect yourself and first disclose your symptoms to the health worker before you start getting tested.
I'm really getting worried because there was a tape I listened to earlier on when I first got back. And
patient 31. Which one?
No, not patient 31. No, this one was saying that he worked with the UN or something.
Right. Okay, I heard that
or WHO, and that we're going to have it in thousands. Right. So in our own Nigeria,
all of us rejected it.
We are returning to sender. Okay. But now I'm looking at what is happening in Kano. I'm looking at what happened on Saturday at the burial. We are not getting it into our skulls.
We don't understand it yet.
We don't know. We're just taking we'll be greeting ourselves. So I'm just a bit worried.
It's really scary. I was going to rush very quickly to Daily Sun. We made mistakes because we talked about that. Let's find a story we've not taken at all. FG extends airport closure by 2 weeks. Edo provides life insurance to health workers, which is great. Let's move on quickly to the Tribune. And I'm not sure there's another story. We've taken all the stories. Anxiety over rapid rise in COVID-19. We've mentioned that. Let's close the paper review. There's no other story there. All right, that's all we can take on the papers. When we come back, we discuss a hot topic, which right now I think is just the fall, but we'll see. I will also take a few updates. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So private healthcare providers and the Guild of Medical Directors have expressed dissatisfaction with the decision of the federal government not to allow private hospitals without accreditation treat persons who test positive for the virus. According to reports, it was wrong for the government to sideline them in the treatment of COVID-19 patients. What are your thoughts on this? You can call us on 070-806-6814. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTV so we can read your tweets. All right, so it would be nice to speak to an expert on this, to a hospital owner, because if hospitals are saying that they would like to participate in this treatment of COVID-19, and the federal government is saying, no, we have to accredit a certain number, and if you're not amongst that group of hospitals, you cannot actually treat COVID-19 patients. In your view, do you think it would have been good for the federal government to help all hospitals get involved? Because we've been talking on this table from day one that we need to decentralize this testing. It can't be only one spot. And the Lagos State government has tried to now do it such that you can now get samples across all the 20 various local governments. Doesn't mean that they're getting tested there, but you can get the samples and then those samples will be taken over to the labs. But what are your thoughts generally? Let me start with BC on this.
Okay, so I think the COVID-19 did not give anybody an opportunity to think. We didn't sit down and we're waiting that in 2020, one virus is going to come in the air and snatch up everybody. We didn't have that time to plan for it. So it happened and everybody was just trying to think on the spot on what to do. We already know that the federal government does not have enough testing kits. So even if they give you a license to treat people in your locality, you do not have the testing kits. You're going to be endangering the lives of the professionals, healthcare professionals you have. So going behind the federal government to start treating people like we've seen, some of the hospitals have been locked down. I read in the papers yesterday that some hospitals have already been closed down because they have been affected. Nurses and the doctors have been affected because they were going behind to treat COVID-19 patients. That is the result of you going behind the federal government to continue this treatment when you know that this is not just an ordinary disease. It's a virus that people are struggling all over the world to understand how it is. And it had procedures and guidelines that were meant to be followed. I think we should be patient with the federal government. I expected them to have like a meeting saying that, okay, federal government, we know that you have only the NCDC handling this. Why don't you give us some testing kits? Why don't you equip some of... They should have that meeting before...
I want us to go back to when Ebola came into Nigeria. Ebola came in through a private hospital. And for months, people avoided that hospital because everybody was scared. Because they were not equipped. Dr. Stella Adadevo lost her life because of that patient that came in. So we have to always... So I think all these hospitals, I don't think what they're doing is right. Treating patients independently of the government, because they are not only risking the lives of the patients, they are risking the lives of the medical staff because they are not equipped. They don't have the AMZAD suits, they don't have the testing kits, they don't have the isolation. So you're not. It's not just the handlers. What of the person cleaning that has no business with you or anything?
I got a list yesterday, I mean, on social media, and it was passed around, the list of hospitals that are currently not taking patients. They are private hospitals. St. Nicholas is one of them, St. Edward's Hospital, Premier Specialist Hospital. There's one in Ogudu. A few of them are right now shut down for the next 2 weeks in isolation because they've been exposed. The word is they've been exposed. They didn't tell us categorically if they had patients there. They didn't tell us categorically if they were treating anybody. They just said they were exposed to COVID-19. Now, the problem now is that, don't you think it would have been more effective if from day one, all the hospitals were equipped? Now, maybe not equipped, but at least can take samples. Now that we're now resolving to get local governments to help take samples. Because I think what the guild is saying, like, listen, use us, we are here. So if you have that would have helped testing to be faster. You have been able to capture more people to know who has this thing. So if all the hospitals were given the opportunity to take samples, that might have made us able to know exactly the numbers we're dealing with.
Can I ask you this question? Because a lot of the people that are going to these private hospitals, they are all rich.
Yes.
So they have money.
Yes.
Now, are they going to do it for free? Because I'm sure that the Lagos, Kenny in Onikon and the ones in Yaba, they are doing it for free. They are not collecting money from anybody. So are they going to do it for free? Or are they going to just be treating the rich? That is the question I have to ask them. Fine. Let the government equip them. But are they willing to do it
for everybody?
Yeah.
That's everybody. Let me take this call from Yakub. I'll come to you. Good morning, Yakub. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good morning.
It's always good to hear your voice.
Yeah, good morning to you, Sister Annie. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, if we all have said it all, this disease caught all of us on our ear. And then if the hospital are not agitating that they wanted to be treating COVID-19 patients, Sister Annie, just say something now. Are they going to treating COVID-19 patients free if the government equipped them? That is the question. It's a situation whereby it is the government equipped you, and then you started charging people. And then do you have the knowledge? What about those nurses? Are they trained? Those nurses that are working with the private doctors, are they training nurses? Are they not auxiliary nurses? A situation whereby, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Very clearly.
Yeah, especially whereby you are not a good training to handle the COVID-19 patient. And then you go home and then infect your people. So, Morayo, the government and the private sector, they need to sit down together to analyze. If we equip you, all these tests, you are going to carry it out free because we are in pandemic, so that Nigerian people will know that, okay, this is a private hospital. It's very close to my area. I can easily go there. And then so that they can be able to handle it very well and then not infect more people. And then about interstate. Government should be able to close those interstates. If you don't close it, we are just stuck. Because all of us.
Thank you very much. So I'm not sure the hospital have said that they were charging, but the point is that you made a good point that they're going to treat everybody else. But I think I want us to see the reasoning in this. That if we have actually had all the hospitals taking samples from people that felt comfortable going there, let me just go and do my test too. It's not for you to get the results. So because the numbers we're seeing, because other countries, as I said it last week, Ghana has been treated. I think they had over 40,000 sold to test. South Africa, over 80,000 tests. In Nigeria, we're just hitting 7,000. And that is that's not a good figure at this time. So but that's what making Nigerians scared that, okay, are we really getting the right figures? Do we really know how many people have this disease, this virus? So we should have I would have preferred that all hospitals have been called together. Don't sideline them. Bring them, let's have a conversation and say, what can you do to ensure testing is decentralized and everybody gets an opportunity to have this test? Go ahead.
Okay, let's not forget that prior to COVID-19, the healthcare system in Nigeria has a major problem. And it's not just about the federal hospitals and the state hospitals, even the private hospitals. We have issues of quacks working as nurses. We have issues of people who are not equipped to handle the job there. We have issues of lack of staff. We don't have enough staff in these hospitals. So what I think the federal government was doing is a way to separate COVID-19 patients from regular patients. Let's not forget that we have people who have normal sickness, malaria, typhoid, and get pregnancy and all of that need to be in the hospital. So if you make every hospital a testing center, an isolation center, you don't know who has what. You don't know who we are going to be. We are still hugging people as at tomorrow, as at today. We are still hugging people. You don't know who you are coming in contact with when you go to the hospital to treat malaria. So I can go to the hospital from malaria, I carry COVID-19 home. So the federal government wanted to separate it. So you know that this particular isolation centers and testing centers are for this particular COVID-19. These ones can, and do you know, let me even tell you the truth. My father-in-law carried out a major surgery 2 weeks ago. He's still in the hospital. Do you know that most of these private hospitals are not even working? They are not even working. They are stylishly shutting down. So are they telling me now that they are equipped to handle COVID-19 cases?
Let me take this call.
Let's call a spade, please.
Good morning. Are you there? Thanks for calling.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, please. John.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, this advice are from Kaduna State.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're live. Go ahead, please.
You see, for me, for my own opinion, federal governments have never done anything yet. They have never done anything yet.
How do you mean?
You see, I remember when this COVID-19 the rumor was floating all over the country. Then when the news comes, I think someone raised in the Senate that the medical system has never been centralized. Then I think Vigan Bashem or somebody from the presidency begin to attack that Senate. That why is he going to say so? Is it in the medical system? Then unfortunately, the next day, COVID-19 was welcome in Nigeria. You understand?
Right.
And now, being since, let me say, up to two months now, we have been battling with this. From what I see on the ground, the federal government have never done anything yet. Because
I'm not sure what he's driving
trying to
at
say?
because a lot of work has gone down.
Yeah.
And I think compared to many countries, we are proud that Nigeria is doing a lot. Yes, I think that our government is doing what they can.
Yeah.
I feel the people have not started recognizing what they must do to help and support the government. I think if you ask me, this is my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
The government has done everything it can within its own purview. But the Nigerians ourselves, we're not taking this thing as seriously as we should.
We don't think
so
it's
there's so
serious.
much the government can do. That's my own view.
I disagree with you, Mariah.
Right,
I think everybody should take responsibility for their actions.
Right.
The government should take responsibility for its actions.
Right.
Nigerians should take responsibility for its actions.
Right.
We are all at fault. Nobody, because who is the government? It's not Nigerians. So please, let's not exonerate the government. Because if we are going to exonerate the government, then we are going to exonerate what happened on Saturday. That thing still pained me. I don't tweet. I had to tweet about it. So everybody has to take his own and her own responsibility.
Unfortunately, we're trying to get a guest, somebody from the medical profession to join us on this conversation. Unfortunately, we're having trouble getting him on this show. But the objective really is to have this conversation on if indeed it have been helpful for hospitals, private hospitals to help out in COVID-19, or we would have been putting more Nigerians at risk, as you said, if we had done that. So either way, the conversation is still ongoing, but we still try to bring in somebody sometime to help understand that perspective.
say that?
We have to go on a
Imagine
break.
I have COVID, and instead of, God forbid, and instead of going to the center, I now go to
A regular hospital.
A hospital because I have money. And then I go and give everybody
I'm telling you.
the disease.
That's it.
That is irresponsible of me.
Right.
So everybody is, so whether it's you are rich or you are poor, and you have it and you are not going to the right place, you are irresponsible.
Exactly.
And if you are a government person and you are having a funeral with plenty people, you are irresponsible.
Totally. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up on that. Let's go on a break. When we come back, this issue of oil price, the global oil price is now below $0. What does that mean for you and I as Nigerians? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for staying with us. So, according to reports, crude oil price has fallen by 40% in Monday's trade, down to about $10. Traders are becoming more concerned that oil storage facilities are reaching their limits as stockpiles continue to build owing to the crash in demand caused by COVID-19. Joining us on the show is the energy consultant, Mr. Charles Majomi. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
My pleasure.
So for those of us that are watching on international news, when we saw oil selling for below -$0, everybody got scared. And someone else saying, no, that doesn't concern us. Ours is different. Well, Brent is still about $10. Could you help us understand the difference? Because some people are worried if the oil that Nigeria is trading is the one that is actually selling for $0 or below $0. Could you just clarify for us?
No, the one that's selling for below $0, actually currently at about -$37, is the American crude oil, known as the WTI crude, which lists differently and is really sort of crude specific more to local demand, that's created more for local demand in America.
Okay.
So my response to you is, while it is not Brent, it's not the crude oil that we as Nigerians use for trading, it is a sign of times to come. The complete shutdown of the industry in America was based on one thing: lack of local demand. And that was driven by one thing: the pandemic and the need for isolation and the need for cutting back on work in the United States. So you can see potentially, if you can extrapolate beyond the United States to the rest of the world, where China is, for the first time in 30 years, seeing a cutback in its growth, where global demand for resources has shrunk on the back of economic issues, and now with the pandemic, etc., you can see how these supply chains can very, very quickly just shut down.
We read last week, sir, that we had over 50 million barrels waiting for off-takers. That's Nigeria. And by now, I'm sure it's much more than that. Do we have enough storage capacity in Nigeria to at least accommodate what we're drilling?
No, actually, frankly, we don't. And this is this is now the time we're going to sort of, we're going to eat the bread of our sad planning. The issue is that right now, the reason that there is a massive crash in the price of crude oil is because demand has fallen, and the powers within OPEC are fighting for market share. Now, if that is not remedied very soon, we will have a massive impact on the oil and gas industry. Now, as far as Nigeria goes, that is significant for a variety of reasons. If capital is more discerning about the kind of hydrocarbon it wants to invest in, it's going to look for better fiscal rates, better incentives to come and invest in your crude oil acreages, as opposed to doing it next door in Ghana or whatever. We don't compare favorably in terms of the kinds of incentives we have provided. The delay of our petroleum industry bill has created huge amounts of uncertainty. So it is a very bleak preview into the future, if you ask me.
Okay. All right, then. Okay. So what's the role of refineries in this issue? Because I'm thinking that if we had enough refineries that will handle the excess crude, we will be able to manufacture what we are using as individuals. That's the populace who have enough, so we are not importing the already made crude. So is there anything we can do as when it comes to setting up molecular refineries modular refineries to help us sort out this issue? Right.
Well, first of all, Nigeria is among the highest producers the highest cost producers of crude oil in the world. Yeah. So we're immediately at a disadvantage there. Now, when you're talking about crude oil refining, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't have been refining our own crude oil, providing our own products and petroleum to our own market. Sadly, the refineries have been deliberately kept to be underperforming, so that this scheme, known as the fuel oil subsidy or under recovery, can be perpetrated. Now, I'm extremely gratified to learn that the government has seen fit to do away with subsidy, which means that pricing will be deregulated.
Right. Fantastic.
And that might be something.
That was something I was going to talk about in a moment, but let me get a few more questions for you. Great. Now, I'll come to the issue of deregulation. We've been talking about that for years, and obviously it's before us. But before I even go into that, my worry is that many state governors have not really been creative in their IGRs. States like Lagos State, a few others, have ways of generating revenue in their states. But other states, many other states, are fully, completely dependent on this sale of crude. Now, if this money doesn't come in, how would they pay salaries? Salaries that they already owe, you know. And then we now see a huge impact on poverty in our land. And that could now have a ripple effect on other things. So my worry is that how prepared are we? Are governors even thinking? Are they reading the times and looking for what they can do beyond crude oil?
You know, you hit the nail on the spot. And I'm of a belief that you never waste a crisis. This is a crisis situation. We've got to do things differently. We cannot be dependent, okay, on the whims and caprices of foreign powers, okay, that determine the price of crude oil and therefore our national budget, our national revenues, etc. We need to diversify our economy. You know, I've been on your program several times and I've always said the same thing. We don't have to look far. Gas is massively available in Nigeria. Gas has the potential to transform our economy by addressing our power needs and by creating industrial projects using gas as an industrial feedstock.
So, sorry,
if we focused on this, we would be able to have cushioned the effects of this type of catastrophe in the oil industry on us. We would have diversified our economy. We would have given jobs to population by adding value to the resources. This is where we need to go in the future.
Right.
And this crisis, this terrible thing, has basically.
All right. Let me get in a few questions for you.
Because I was going to ask you about the gas flares. You know, they waste a lot of gas. So, are you talking about that gas? The gas that is wasted when they flare the gas.
Hello, are you there? Oh, I hope we didn't lose that caller. Hello? I think we lost our caller.
Oh.
Okay, we'll try to call him back. This is really sad. It's really, really sad. And I just hope that we can actually begin to understand the impact. Yes, YK, you're going to say something.
No, there is. If we are talking about refineries, I don't think there's anything we can do in the short term.
Yes.
But we can empower the modular ones. There are modular refineries right now within the various states. But yes, we're all waiting for our uncle to finish the one in Lagos.
His own first.
So that we can begin to refine locally. But the truth is that now that it is going 1 for 10 kobo, I don't understand how it's going to.
But if we refine the oil here now, and we start, our petroleum products are here. So instead of going to buy petrol from importing, you be buying it from.
I hope our uncle did not buy one chance. So.
I don't understand. What do you mean by
Okay, I'm wait. Hey, let me get our guests back on because there's so much to ask concerning this because Nigerians want to know. Some have kept their monies in dollars. They want to know what's going to happen to that. Is there going to be ripple effect? Some are asking when now that there's a possibility that salaries might not be paid going forward because do we have enough cushion effect? You know, we're saying that you have the excess crude account. Can the resources we have there cushion the effect of this price? And how soon? These are some of the questions I want to ask him. How soon do we see that that rebound we'll get in the next few months? How long can we wait? Is it next year? Is it 2 months, 3 months?
It makes the future just seem very bleak.
Yeah, which is what he was saying.
It makes the future seem very bleak, and I'm afraid, you know, because when you think about it, I want to keep thinking positively because it's only by thinking positively that you can even sleep at night.
Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll try to get in our guests. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Do we still have our guest, consultant Charles Majami? Are you still there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we'll be with you. Go ahead,
I had been asking about the gas flares. You know, because you were talking about gas, we should now diversify to gas. And I'm thinking, you know, these flares that they waste gas, is that the gas you are asking us to? And how possible is it for them to do it now and, you know, before it's too late?
Well, okay. First of all, there are two forms of gas. There's associated gas, which is gas that's produced as a byproduct when looking for crude oil. This is the gas that is usually flared, okay, that you see usually flared. Then there's non-associated gas, which is gas that is sought purely on its own commercial merit, and this does not have to be derived from gas that was basically discovered accidentally in the process of solvent crude oil. Now, the Nigerian government put in place about 2 years ago a policy, a gas policy, that set out a means for monetizing, for ending gas flare through its monetization. The gas flare commercialization program tendered out about 89 flares that would be used, or basically would be bid out to bidding private sector companies who would want to take that gas that's being flared in terms of its volume and make a payment to government and then conduct some kind of a utilization for that gas, whether it is to create LPG, which is used for cooking gas, etc., whether it's to create compressed natural gas or LNG. These are the products that will be created from the gas flare under this Nigerian gas flare commercialization program.
Right.
And the problem, however, is that the RFP had already started, and the bidding process was in full swing when this coronavirus struck.
Right.
So the question then is, how likely is a project like this going to be able to get the kind of capital it requires to take
Right.
off?
Exactly. Hey. All right, let me get in the few.
Okay, so traders in the market have said that the Nigeria's crude is still going for between $13 to $15, and it hasn't hit the negative territory yet. So what does that mean, and how, do you think it's something we'll likely come out of soon?
I think the implications for this, what is happening right now in terms of a very, very severe curtailment of demand, will have far-reaching consequences for Nigeria for a long, long time to come.
Okay.
Keep in mind also that Nigeria has the highest production cost in the world.
Okay.
So even if the price goes down to 11, it may be that actually it's not commercially viable for Nigeria to produce crude oil because costs of it would greatly outweigh the actual.
Right. Because of time, I come to you again. Because I want to bring this conversation home that Nigerians can understand. Now that they're saying, well, we see that the oil crude has gone to between $13 and $15, and they're saying that they're going to remove subsidy. In your view, how much should we realistically be paying for petrol today? I mean, they gave us a Greek gift of $120-something, the naira per liter right now, but we obviously know, based on the numbers, it should be way cheaper now. How much do Nigerians expect that will be buying fuel going forward?
Look, I think when you have a deregulated market, as is required, if you're going to move beyond subsidy, you're going to have to deregulate your market. Otherwise, you will hamper your ability to be able to actively produce the kind of products that you were seeking to import. I think that the market forces would decide.
Right.
I think what you're going to be able to see is that when the Dangote refinery, for example, comes on stream,
right,
he will not be looking at the Nigerian market and say, oh, look, he will say, look, what is the best, who's giving me the best bang for my buck? And that's where I'm going to go. I think the industry needs to take that into account post-subsidy, because it won't work any other way.
Go ahead, Wike.
I just wanted to ask, because everything you have said, the future seems very bleak. I'm very depressed. What advice would you give the government to move forward so that the future will look a bit rosy?
Look,
let's try to think positive now.
The advice I give government is the advice that I've actually been giving government for quite a long time. That is that we need to diversify our economy. We need to create, we need to understand, and we need to invest in the infrastructure deficit that will be required to structurally change this economy. We need to move away from crude oil, okay, and being subject to extraneous geopolitical factors that constantly impede our development. We need to diversify our economy okay? Add value to our resources, not export the raw material. Add value locally to the resource. Thereby, you employ people, you create value, and you create energy security within the country. We have to start thinking differently. We have to start thinking as a nation.
Let me also ask you, so let's imagine that Dangote's refinery works today. Do we have the capacity to consume all the crude that we produce? I mean, if we want to say we're shutting down our borders, that you know what, everything we drill and the crude we get, we refine it here and consume. Does our market have that capacity, or do you think we still have to export to make some money?
I think from an amortization point of view, he will want to go to wherever the best value is for his buck, while he's paying off the incredible amount of investment that he's made into this type of thing. Okay. I believe that Nigeria is a nation of nearly 200 million people, with a growing middle class, with a very mobile population, etc. I think that demand, which has also been a very big issue, a corrupt issue within the subsidy regime, I think demand will be substantial.
Right.
And substantial enough certainly to justify.
Futuristically, what timelines can you give us? I mean, when will things go back to normal? I mean, right now, yes, we understand there's a global lockdown. Nobody's buying fuel. Industries are shut down. Yes, there is the excess production of crude. Yes. But at some point, we'll begin to go out, go to work. Industries will start at some point. Do you have an idea of the timelines that things will bounce back to normal? I mean,
Well, I don't think...
See a prophet.
I think what you have to do is you have to correlate potential for things bouncing back with the discovery of a vaccine.
Yeah.
As long as the vaccine is not around, the coronavirus becomes endemic within wherever you are, you're going to have these threats to production, etc. My hope is that it's going to be curbed. In terms of when things are going to get back to normal, I think there's a very big chance that things will never get back to normal that we used to know. And I think there are positives and negatives with that. For me, the greatest positive is the fact that finally the government will be forced to have this discussion that they've all, because they were flush with money and high crude oil prices, drunk basically, they did not focus on, and that is the need to readdress structural nature of our economy.
We have to go at this time, but I have to ask you one thing. A lot of Nigerians are worried about the value of the dollar. Would it go down now that, do you think the value of the dollar will go? Because people have carried all their money and stashed it in dollars and saying, that was a safe net. But now with all this happening, is it still, will the dollar still have value going forward?
Well, let's put it this way. This has been a tremendously bad day for the dollar in terms of American industry and etc. I think the dollar will always be able to survive in some form, but I think what you can definitely expect is a severe depreciation of the naira against the dollar. Probably,
Thank you very much.
And other hard currencies actually. In the near term.
All right. Thank you very much for enlightening us this morning. We really appreciate your joining the show. We've been speaking with the energy consultant, Mr. Charles Majami. Let's go on a break now. We'll come back. We'll discuss the plight of nurses during COVID-19. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So nurses are the backbone of any health system. Today, many nurses find themselves on the front line in the battle against COVID-19. The question is, are nurses properly equipped for these times? Joining us on the show is a family health director, lead nurse, Africa International Foundation, Julie Mogbo. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Yes. It's nice to be on the
Yes.
show. How are you guys doing?
Great, great. So nurses, obviously, all over the world are really appreciated for the work they're doing, the sacrifices they're making, especially because they're amongst the first, they're the frontliners people come to in hospitals. One of the worries so far is, however, is that the nurses in Nigeria, are they well equipped for their work, especially at this time? I know I have Miriam's mom works she's a nurse, one of us. Her mother works in a nurse in Plateau State. And one of the worry Miriam was always having that, Mommy, are you properly equipped? And we are just concerned. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you think nurses are properly equipped going for this pandemic?
Okay, thank you very much. If we consider the severity of the pandemic that we are being faced with, especially as the figures are now rising, we will say that there is a need to do more work. I have sampled the opinion and the experiences of our nurses working in the hospitals, and from the feedback that I got, there is still a lot of work to do. I personally do not think that our nurses are well equipped to manage this. Trainings have been ongoing, but trainings need to continue, and here is the reason. The healthcare system before COVID-19 has already been shaken.
Yeah, I agree.
And COVID-19 has just revealed the severity of the gap within our healthcare system. And what we were used to before as nurses is managing. Nurses are used to either borrowing one item or the other. Nurses are used to, okay, let's do it like that. They are used to trying and getting tired of trying to get the management to do the needful, provide the normal equipment they need to use. Now, if they have been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, 18 years, we cannot expect that all of a sudden, because of COVID-19, they will just snap out of their old behavior and adopt the necessary behavior, which is preventing the infection from spreading. So we need to keep training them now and again. We need to keep training them on how to prevent themselves, on how to don and doff the personal protective equipment, on how to know what equipment to use per patient.
Okay.
Depending
let
on
me
the
let me get a few questions for you here. Go ahead.
All right. So I understand now that the risk of burnouts, because the nurses are going to be working for longer hours, and the risk of also infecting other family members, that when they are done from work, they have to go home and meet their family members without actually properly protecting themselves because they do not have all of the equipment. Is there like a form of compensation? Because a lot of nurses are worried and some are threatening to go home, according to the papers this morning. Is there like a form of compensation that is being given to encourage these people who are at the fore?
And now, compensation is one part. It still does not change the fact that they are still going to be working long hours and they still have that fear of carrying on this infection, the possibility of infecting their families. As I speak with you, there are 3 families that I know, not in Nigeria though. They are already battling with guilt because they lost their husbands. 3 nurses lost their husbands to COVID-19. Not in Nigeria, but they are Nigerian nurses. So if our nurses hear this fear will increase, the anxiety will increase. So yes, there might be palliatives in terms of financial incentives and all that, maybe insurance, that's on the side. But it's not going to prevent the stress on the individual that has to work for long hours. We have many registered nurses in Nigeria, and there are those that are currently not working because perhaps they do not have jobs or their private facilities are shut down. They need to be called up. The working hours need to be reduced. Other workers are brought in. Mind you, that not all nurses who are at the front line are fit to work. There are those that have comorbidity, those that have underlying medical concerns and are not supposed to be put in the line of the COVID fire. They are supposed to be given or assigned another duty.
But how would the government know the ones that have this problem? Our own is the nurse. You have to have an association that will say, okay, she can't do it because she has this problem. It's not for the commissioner or somebody to know. that they have the underlying problems.
Thank you for that. This, like I said, COVID-19 has revealed to us our skeleton, our cupboard of skeletons. These are systems that ought to have been put in place. You have the proper data of all those working in your facilities. So at the point where we started hearing about the COVID-19 pandemic, and when it was even declared as a pandemic, hospitals were supposed to get their nurses to update their records. If you didn't have records of those that are battling one condition or the other, that was the time to have started it at that February. So you know that, okay, when it comes to volunteering, as it is, some hospitals are doing it already, but it's done verbally. I had a conversation with an Apex nurse this morning, and I said, could this be properly documented? Let it not just be to the nurse, because a nurse will look at perhaps the incentives coming and will say, oh, this may help me. Let's not rule out the fact that money is important at this time. We know what is happening in the society. Yes. So nurses might just say this, okay, let me volunteer. It's my duty after all, and I will get more pay from it. Let it not be verbal and not alone. Let us go to a point where they have to document just in case anything happens and litigation cases are right.
As you rightly said, nobody prepared for this. What would you advise the government to give to the nurses to be able to do their work appropriately at this time?
What I'm going to advise is this. The government should identify all nursing stakeholders. Now we have those in the clinical setting, we have those in the community setting, we have those in the NGO sector. Right. Like I work with Lead Nurse Africa, what we have been doing, we've been the rallying point for all nursing associations, and we have been dishing out action points to help in fighting this pandemic. We need the government to call all stakeholders. Let the nurses be ably represented at stakeholders meetings, at discussions. We have direct contact with community people. We have direct contact with patients. Our opinion matters. The perspective, the challenges that we're facing matter. So when there are certain discussions, there must be a good representation of the nursing profession there at such meetings. That is one. Two, the incentive. There shouldn't be any form of discrepancies or disparity in the palliatives given to nurses in comparison to other medical professionals. Because I would not take it lightly personally. If other people are going to be paid a particular amount and I'm paid half of the amount, is their lives more worth, does it have more worth than mine? If anything happens to me, is it that my family will be less affected than their family?
Right.
For those on the front line, let it be a flat amount, whatever incentive. They are not more exposed or less exposed to the infection than any other person. Right. That is true. Three, there shouldn't be rationalization of PPEs anymore. Okay. If some states are considering to mandate the use of facial masks, then what do you expect in the hospitals? So there shouldn't be rationalization. There shouldn't be grants. I've gotten reports where some nurses have said, it's your life. Some nurses have been told, go and get one for yourself. That shouldn't be.
So they are made to use their own money to buy the...
Some have been told, go and sort yourself out. It's your life. It shouldn't be.
But even the police go safe. They tell them, go and buy your uniform yourself.
It shouldn't be. Right, go ahead, Missy.
I want to believe that you people have, the nurses have an association that speak for them in cases like this. So I'm wondering, is there any plan coming from the association now, because the truth is the federal government, the state government cannot do everything, to ensure that you have people who attend to the nurses, like psychologists and mental health practitioners, to help them, go through this phase, because the nurses are at the forefront. They are going to be meeting a lot of these patients. They do more of the work than even the doctors. So do they have people who still cater for the people who cater for others?
Okay, so like I said, the foundation that I belong to, Lead Nurse Africa, is a Pan-African organization. Okay. And we have been organizing conferences, leadership conferences, empowering nurses and equipping them with upgrading their care at the front line in their clinical setting or wherever they find themselves. Okay. We've had 2 strategy meetings 2 days ago and then yesterday. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, we are rolling out psychotherapy intervention, which is part of our core responsibilities as nurses. Okay. And we are hoping that we will get a buy-in of the government to train the nurses at the front line in this particular intervention, because one, they need to be exposed to it daily so that their motivation and resilience level is sustained at a peak in order for them to render effective care. Two, when they are armed with this technique, they will in turn use it on their patients who come in and are scared of dying, who come in and are feeling and they don't have a bright future of the outcome of their treatment, because that is what we're experiencing. Anybody who goes there would feel that they're going to die. That is what we experience in a regular hospital, let alone when you're faced with a virus like this.
I want to go ahead, Waike.
There are some tweets that maybe will make you feel happy. Nurses, this is from Andrew in Streatham. He says, nurses, aka Angels of Mercy. My mom is a retired nurse. I cover all of them, covering in the front line in the UK, Nigeria, USA, and all over the world with the blood of Jesus. Amen. Tolu Lokpe Daudu says,
COVID-19 has been Waike said.
It was in the tweet.
Go ahead.
Tolu Lokpe Daudu says, I celebrate our nurses in Nigeria, especially those in the forefront of the treating of COVID-19 patients. Please, I'd like to plead that the protection of these nurses and their families should be considered. They are the ones staying with the patients all the time.
Julie, I'd like you to answer this question. Yes, you've told us what you want from the federal government. What would you appreciate potential patients to do? Because Nigerians, we come to the hospitals without even disclosing what we've been through, our travel history. What would you like? Yes, the government have their own responsibilities. What would you as a nurse say to patients coming to the hospitals?
Okay, now the focus has been on the hospital, and this is the reason that I ask that the government shed the beam of light of care to other organizations. And this is what we are doing. We are interfacing with the front line. The spectrum of front line is wide. So we have the community, we have the homes, we have the community, then we have the hospital, and that's the treatment part of it. So we have the preventive front line. So now what we are doing with patients, we're telling them it's not a death sentence. If the patients are aware that care is available, treatment center is conducive, and there's a possibility of a positive outcome of you coming out, where we would have to show them incidences of people who have survived, which is actually higher now in Nigeria than the death cases. We can do that. That's part of our responsibility. And one of the things that we're asking, once we are given that platform, let's have access to these people. Let's have our freedom of movement. With our licenses, let's go into the community. We have mobilized over 300 nurses that will take this information to the people. So we can.
But Julie, BC said it earlier that this option might actually be more endangering other innocent Nigerians who have no business with COVID-19 virus. But if you have, yes, go ahead.
Now, I'm asking, I need to get that question clearly.
Okay, because you were saying that they need to involve other stakeholders within the treatment of COVID-19. And we discussed it earlier. And one of BC's points was that it's a good idea, but if we have nurses who have been in contact with those who are confirmed virus cases and then reaching out to other people, that might actually cause this to spread further, don't you think?
Okay, now, like I said, we need to define responsibilities and identify nurses that are working in certain settings. We have those that are in the hospitals. They would not have any business outside of the hospital. Then we have those who are outside of the hospital who can interface with people in the community. We cannot determine for the people where to go to for help. I said it on one program. On my street, I met a mother with her son going to the hospital. She chose where to go to. We can't control that. But if we have our nurses, foot soldiers, those that are advocates, we have advocates. That's our first responsibility as nurses, who will go on market areas, wherever, educate these people, sensitize them, teach them on how to prevent or adhere to precautionary measures and all that. Then if along the line we suspect any COVID case, we need to have a direct contact with NCDC, because one thing our license tells us is this: know where your jurisdiction ends. So we don't go beyond it. So if I'm in the preventive line, I keep it at that, preventive. I won't venture into curative. So once I see a case that needs some cure, I would refer to the necessary and appropriate quarters. So that is why we need to activate everyone. When we have a surge, my fear is this: we may not be able to handle a surge.
But you are talking
about prevention.
You are talking about yourself. Do all the nurses have this same work ethic?
Like I said, I represent Lead North Africa International Foundation, and on our group, we have family nurses who have designed interventions to help non-COVID cases.
Right.
Because when the non-COVID cases arise, they want to go to the hospital for help,
Okay.
or they want
I
to
have to
manage
run off right
themselves,
now.
and we will have issues.
Right. Thank you very much.
We have been designing programs, and we have hundreds of nurses on our platform.
All right. I have to let you go at this time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We've been speaking to the Health Director, Lead Nurse Africa International Foundation. That's Julie Mogbo. Okay, that's all we can take on the show. We've learned quite a bit. It was a really intense show today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a fabulous day. Bye for now.
Intense, depressing.